A woman only respects you when you detach completely. The moment she sees you can walk away without fear, she realizes your worth. Neediness kills respect. Self-control creates it. Detachment is not revenge, it's power. When you stop chasing, she starts noticing. Respect follows distance, never desperation. Attachment breeds dependency. Detachment breeds respect. When you hold on too tightly to someone, you send an unspoken message that your happiness depends on them. That neediness may look like care or love at first, but over time it becomes suffocating. Human nature does not respect what clings, it respects what stands firmly on its own. A woman may appreciate your affection, but if that affection turns into desperation, she begins to feel like she owns your emotions. And once someone feels they own you, they stop valuing you. That is the brutal reality of relationships. What is too available is rarely respected. Detachment is not about indifference or cruelty, it is about strength. It is the quiet confidence that says, I want you, but I don't need you. That is the energy that commands respect. When you are detached, you do not chase validation or beg for attention. You move from a place of self-worth, and that is deeply attractive. A woman will always sense when a man is emotionally grounded, when his world does not collapse if she pulls away. And paradoxically, it is in that space of independence that she begins to value him more. Dependency creates pressure in any relationship. If you are constantly worried about losing her, you will compromise your values, your standards, and even your peace just to keep her. That type of energy pushes her further away because no woman wants to feel like she carries the entire weight of someone's existence. But when you practice detachment, you release that burden from her shoulders. She sees a man who can enjoy her presence, but also survive her absence. That balance creates respect. Detachment also builds mystery. When you are not constantly available, she wonders what you are doing, where your focus lies, and why you are so calm without her. Curiosity breeds attraction, and attraction fuels respect. A man who is overly attached gives away all his cards, leaving nothing for a woman to discover. But a man who is detached keeps his dignity intact and his value undeniable. Every woman, at some point, will test boundaries. She will see how far she can push, how much you will tolerate, how quickly you will chase if she withdraws. If you are attached, you will fail this test because you will scramble to prove yourself. If you are detached, you will stand firm, and she will realize she cannot control you. That realization sparks respect instantly. Remember, detachment does not mean absence of love. It means presence of self-respect. It means you give freely, but you do not beg. You care deeply, but you never lose yourself in the process. When you master detachment, you show that your worth is not negotiable. That is when she looks at you differently, not as someone she can manipulate, but as someone she must respect. When you're unavailable, she feels your value more. Human psychology works in strange yet predictable ways. People don't often recognize the worth of something when it's constantly in front of them. Availability breeds comfort, and comfort slowly turns into complacency. When you are always there, always answering, always chasing, you unintentionally lower your own value in her eyes. She begins to assume you will never leave, that you have no other options, that your world revolves around her. And once she makes that assumption, respect begins to fade. Think about it. The rarest things in life are always the most desired. Scarcity creates value. The more difficult it is to access something, the more people are willing to fight for it. Relationships work in the same way. When you are unavailable, not in a manipulative way, but in a grounded and self-respecting way, she begins to wonder about you. She starts asking herself questions. Why isn't he always around? What is he doing with his time? Why doesn't he drop everything for me like others do? That curiosity alone creates an aura of importance around you. Being unavailable doesn't mean ignoring her or treating her with coldness. It means you have priorities beyond her. You have a life filled with purpose, goals, and passions that don't stop just because she texted you or asked for your attention. A woman feels a man's strength in how well he balances his love for her with his love for himself. If she feels you neglect your own growth, your own responsibilities, and your own dreams just to please her, she loses respect. But when she sees you're not always at her disposal, she respects the discipline it takes to maintain boundaries. Unavailability also creates anticipation. When she knows you are not always within reach, the moments you do give become more meaningful. She values your time because it is not guaranteed. She values your presence because it is not constant. Too much availability makes your presence ordinary. Limited availability makes it special. It shifts the dynamic from her taking you for granted to her appreciating you more deeply when she has you. There is also a psychological principle at play. People chase what they cannot fully have. When you are overly available, you remove the chase, the thrill, the excitement of winning you over. But when you are selective with your time and energy, she feels the need to invest more into the relationship to keep you engaged. This naturally increases her respect for you because respect always follows effort. A man who is unavailable communicates silently that he has a world of his own. He is not controlled by her moods, her tests, or her temporary withdrawals. He is consistent with his path, and she knows she cannot shake his foundation. That independence is magnetic. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. And certainty is something every woman admires, but few men truly embody. When you're unavailable, you are not punishing her, you are prioritizing yourself. That act alone sends the clearest message. Your time is valuable, your energy is valuable, and your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And when she realizes this, she respects you more than ever. A woman only chases what she fears to lose. If she feels she already has you in the palm of her hand, there is no urgency, no effort, no drive to win you over. Human nature works in a way that when something feels secure, guaranteed, and overly available, it stops feeling valuable. That is when respect fades and indifference creeps in. But the moment she senses the possibility of losing you, everything changes. Suddenly, she wakes up to your presence, your importance, and the risk of your absence. When a man positions himself as too predictable, too available, or too eager, he unknowingly teaches her that she doesn't need to fight for him. She knows he will be there no matter how she treats him. That is when she relaxes into a position of comfort, where effort is no longer necessary. But when she realizes that your world will keep moving with or without her, she begins to evaluate her place in it. That fear of being replaced, of losing your energy, your attention, and your presence sparks a chase inside her. She starts to work for what she once took for granted. This is not about playing games. It's about understanding psychology. The truth is, attraction thrives on tension. Too much security without effort kills passion. The chase keeps desire alive. A woman respects the man who does not allow himself to be an easy option. She chases the man whose standards are high enough that not everyone can meet them. She chases the man who carries himself in a way that makes her believe she could lose him if she doesn't step up. That fear of loss is what compels her to invest, to try harder, to show up differently. It is in those moments of potential loss that a woman begins to reflect on your value. She remembers the way you make her feel, the strength you carry, and the peace or excitement you bring into her life. She realizes that another woman could experience all of that if she doesn't protect her position. This realization drives her to act, to chase, because deep down, no woman wants to lose what she knows cannot easily be replaced. A man who understands this never begs, never clings, and never overextends himself. He knows that his value isn't proven by how much he can sacrifice, but by how much he can hold back without fear. When he creates the possibility of being lost, intentionally or simply by living fully without depending on her, he triggers her desire to secure him. The fear of losing you is what makes her chase you. It's what makes her reevaluate her behavior, correct her mistakes, and rise to the level of the respect you silently demand. A woman will always chase the man who is strong enough to walk away, who is disciplined enough not to tolerate disrespect, and who is confident enough to let her feel his absence. When she fears losing you, she begins to respect you, value you, and pursue you in ways she never did before. Detachment is not hate, it's power. Too often, people confuse detachment with bitterness, anger, or coldness. But real detachment is none of those things. It's not about shutting someone out or resenting them. It's about standing so firmly in your own self-worth that you are no longer controlled by another person's presence or absence. Detachment is freedom, and freedom is power. When you're attached in an unhealthy way, your emotions rise and fall depending on how the other person treats you. If they give you attention, you feel alive. If they pull away, you feel empty. That dependency makes you a prisoner of their moods and actions. But the moment you detach, you take your power back. You no longer react out of fear of losing them. You stop begging for attention. You stop proving your worth. Instead, you live from a place of calm strength where their actions no longer dictate your peace. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. You can love deeply and still be detached. What changes is the balance of control. When you detach, you create emotional boundaries. You can give without expectation. You can love without desperation. You can walk away if you are disrespected because you are no longer addicted to their validation. That shift makes you powerful because it shows you are in control of yourself, not at the mercy of someone else. A detached person is not cold. They are centered. They don't waste energy chasing or forcing situations to work. They let people reveal who they are, and they respond accordingly. If someone values them, they give in return. If someone disrespects them, they walk away without drama. That quiet strength commands more respect than anger ever could. Detachment keeps your dignity intact, even in the face of rejection or betrayal. A woman or anyone in a relationship senses this energy. She knows when she has full control over you, and she knows when she doesn't. If she feels you are completely dependent on her, she may start to lose respect. But if she feels that you care for her while still being strong enough to walk away, she respects you more. Detachment communicates silently that you are not afraid of loss, and nothing is more powerful than that. Detachment also gives you clarity. When you are not blinded by fear or neediness, you can see people for who they really are. You no longer ignore red flags just to hold on. You no longer settle for crumbs of attention because you're desperate to feel loved. You start making decisions from strength, not weakness. And when you move this way, you not only gain respect from others, you gain respect for yourself. Detachment is not hate. It's the refusal to let anyone control your peace. It's the ability to stay calm when others try to trigger you. It's the strength to love without losing yourself and to walk away without collapsing. That is true power. And once you master it, you realize no one can ever take it from you. Respect comes when she sees you're not afraid to walk away. Nothing commands more strength in a relationship than the ability to leave when your value is no longer being recognized. Most people think love is proven by staying no matter what. But in reality, respect is born when you show that your dignity matters more than your attachment. A woman may test your patience, your boundaries, or your consistency, but the true test she pays attention to is whether you will tolerate disrespect. If you allow it, she loses respect. If you walk away, she instantly realizes your worth. Fear of loss drives respect. When she knows that no matter what she does, you will always stay, she feels safe in pushing limits. She knows she can take you for granted because you lack the strength to leave. But when she senses that you will not hesitate to walk away if she crosses your boundaries, she recalibrates her behavior. She starts valuing your time, your attention, and your presence more because she knows they are not guaranteed. That fear of losing you awakens respect in her heart in a way constant begging never could. Walking away does not mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself enough not to tolerate what lowers your value. When a man stays in situations where he is disrespected, ignored, or taken advantage of, he teaches her that his love has no standards. But when he shows he can detach, when he shows he can step away, he teaches her that his love is strong, but not desperate. That distinction is what separates men who are respected from those who are used. Every woman admires strength, not aggression, not control, but inner strength. And inner strength is best shown in moments of decision, when you have the courage to leave what no longer aligns with your worth. A man who stays despite being disrespected is seen as weak. A man who walks away is seen as rare. She may not admit it immediately, but deep down, she knows only a strong man can risk losing her rather than lose his self-respect. That kind of man cannot be manipulated, and that is exactly why she respects him. Respect grows when she knows you are unafraid of being alone. Needy men collapse at the thought of walking away because they cannot stand solitude. But a man who has mastered himself understands that solitude is better than disrespect. When you embrace this mindset, you flip the dynamic. She realizes you are not with her because you fear loneliness. You are with her because you choose to be. That choice makes your presence powerful. Respect is never built through begging, pleasing, or proving yourself. It is built through standards, and standards are enforced the moment you are willing to walk away. The woman who once thought you would never leave will suddenly see you differently when you do. It is in that moment of absence, that moment of lost access, that true respect is born, because respect comes when she sees you're not afraid to walk away. Overgiving kills attraction, self-control restores it. Many people believe that the more they give, the more they will be loved and appreciated. But in reality, overgiving often creates the opposite effect. When you pour too much too often without balance, you unintentionally communicate that your value is cheap. You teach the other person that your energy, time, and attention will always be there no matter what they do. Instead of inspiring gratitude, it creates entitlement. Instead of building attraction, it slowly suffocates it. When you overgive, you cross the fine line between love and desperation. Love is about giving from a place of strength, but desperation is giving from fear. Fear of losing, fear of not being enough, fear of being abandoned. A woman can sense the difference instantly. She knows when a man is giving because he wants to, and when he is giving because he is trying to buy her approval. The second she feels you are overextending yourself just to secure her presence, her respect for you starts to diminish. Attraction thrives on balance. It grows when both people invest, when both people bring value to the relationship. Overgiving destroys that balance because it creates a dynamic where one gives everything while the other does little, and human nature doesn't value what comes without effort. A woman will cherish a man who makes her earn his time, who gives with intention, and who maintains his standards. But she will lose interest in a man who hands everything over freely without requiring any effort from her side. This is where self-control becomes powerful. Self-control is not about withholding affection or playing games. It is about knowing your worth and giving from a place of strength rather than neediness. It is the discipline to hold back when your instincts push you to chase. It is the patience to wait and see if she invests too. Self-control is what separates a man who is respected from a man who is used. When you practice self-control, you show her that your attention is not unlimited. You don't give it away to anyone and you don't drown her in it. You offer it with meaning. That restraint makes her value you more because people value what is rare, not what is overwhelming. The man who shows restraint communicates silently that his energy is precious, and only those who respect it will receive it. Self-control also restores attraction because it creates space. Overgiving suffocates, while restraint allows curiosity and longing to grow. When you are not constantly flooding her with attention, she begins to wonder about you. She thinks about you more because you are not always right there, ready to please. That space rekindles her interest, making her chase the very presence she once overlooked. Overgiving comes from fear, but self-control comes from power. The more you discipline yourself to give with balance, the more respect and attraction you gain. A woman does not admire the man who loses himself trying to keep her. She admires the man who knows his worth so deeply that he refuses to give it all away at once. That is the man who keeps her respect, her attention, and her desire. Your silence speaks louder than your explanations. In relationships, many people make the mistake of thinking words can fix everything. They argue, they defend themselves, they over-explain, hoping that if they just say enough, the other person will finally understand their worth. But the truth is, constant explanations don't inspire respect. They weaken it. When you feel the need to justify yourself endlessly, you place the other person in a position of power, as if their approval defines you. Silence, on the other hand, is strength. It shows confidence, self-control, and certainty. When you choose silence instead of reacting, you send a clear message. You are not desperate to be understood. You are not begging for validation, and you are not afraid of being misinterpreted. That calm composure commands more respect than 1,000 explanations ever could. A woman pays closer attention to your silence than your arguments because silence forces her to reflect on her own behavior. While explanations can be ignored, silence cannot. It lingers, it makes her question, it creates space for her to realize the truth on her own. Explanations often come from fear, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being seen as the bad guy, the fear of losing her approval. But silence comes from power. It comes from the understanding that your actions, your consistency, and your energy already speak louder than words. You don't need to fight to prove who you are, because your life reflects it. The man who is silent in the right moments is far more respected than the man who constantly talks but fails to stand firm. Silence also protects your dignity. When you argue excessively or beg to be heard, you hand over your power. You place yourself in a position where her reaction dictates your emotions. But when you remain silent, you control the frame. You show her that you will not lower yourself to endless debates or emotional chaos. That discipline is not weakness. It is self-respect. In silence, there is mystery. When you don't explain everything, she starts wondering what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and what your next move might be. That curiosity keeps her engaged. If you constantly pour out explanations, there is nothing left for her to figure out. But silence leaves space for her to chase answers. It shifts the dynamic. She becomes the one trying to understand you, instead of you struggling to be understood. Your silence also reveals something else: boundaries. It shows that you will not entertain endless questioning or manipulation. You do not need to defend yourself when you know your truth. That boundary naturally commands respect because people always push less against what doesn't easily bend. In the end, silence is not about ignoring, it's about elevating. It's the refusal to lower your energy into unnecessary battles. It's the wisdom to let time and actions reveal more than explanations ever could. And when you master this, you'll see that silence speaks louder, clearer, and more powerfully than any words you could ever say. Detachment makes her test herself, not you. When a man is overly attached, he becomes the one constantly being tested. She pushes boundaries, she plays with his emotions, she questions his patience because she knows he will bend just to keep her. The more desperate he is, the more tests he faces, and the more he fails without even realizing it. But when a man practices detachment, the entire dynamic shifts. He no longer becomes the one under examination. Instead, she begins to test herself against his strength, his silence, and his calm refusal to be controlled. Detachment is powerful because it communicates something words never can, that your life does not depend on her. When she feels this energy, she cannot manipulate you through withdrawal, silence, or emotional games. Instead, she starts to reflect on her own actions. She wonders, if I pull away, will he even notice? If I cross his boundaries, will I lose him? If I don't step up, will another woman replace me? Suddenly, the tests are not directed at you, they are directed at her. She is forced to measure herself against your standards, your discipline, and your independence. A man who is detached doesn't collapse when she creates distance. He doesn't beg for her to come back or over-explain himself. He simply remains grounded, showing through his actions that he can carry on with or without her. That composure unsettles her in the best way because she realizes she doesn't have control over him. And the moment she realizes she cannot shake him, she begins questioning her own value in his life. That is how respect is built, not through pleading, but through calm detachment. When you are detached, you create space for her to test her own effort. Does she invest when you stop overgiving? Does she respect you when you stop chasing? Does she fight for your attention when you stop handing it over freely? Your detachment forces her to rise to the occasion if she truly values you. It shifts the weight of responsibility back onto her, where it belongs. This is why detachment is not about hate or indifference, it's about strength. You can love her deeply, yet still be detached enough to demand respect. You can care about her presence, yet still be willing to live without it. That balance is what makes her test herself instead of testing you. She knows that with one wrong move, she could lose you, and that fear of loss is what makes her look inward instead of outward. A man who is detached becomes the mirror. Instead of being on trial, he becomes the standard she measures herself against. And in that process, she realizes the truth. She is not testing him anymore. She is testing her own ability to keep a man who refuses to be broken by attachment. That realization is what transforms the entire relationship. Detachment removes you from the battlefield of her tests and places her in front of her own reflection. True respect in any relationship is never built on chasing, overgiving, or proving yourself. It is born in strength, in boundaries, and in the quiet confidence of knowing you can walk away if you are not valued. Attachment breeds weakness, but detachment builds dignity. A woman only respects the man who is not afraid of her absence, the man whose silence speaks louder than his words, the man who gives without losing himself. When you stop needing her approval, she begins to seek yours. When you stop chasing, she starts noticing. And when you master detachment, you no longer have to demand respect. It comes to you naturally because true power is never in holding on, but in being strong enough to let go.